Eclipse seasons are all about change, destined, predetermined, fated change that we cannot control.
Right.
And the best thing we can do during eclipse season, I can curse here, right?
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
I love what you just shared because that brings me right back to the energy of the heart space. That not bad, not good, just is.
Yeah.
That's actually an energized heart chakra. Whenever we go into places of judgment, of black or white thinking, of this is good, this is bad.
Right.
That's actually the heart chakra either kind of closing down what it's taking in or even leaking. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't have opinions or we shouldn't feel into what feels aligned or unaligned for us. But what we can see happening in the world right now, where we have people who think that they're out there doing good for others while creating more hate, and on the other hand, is just a really good, not good. What we're seeing happening in the world right now, where people care so much about what's happening in the world, but they're doing it in ways that create more division, more hatred, more of the conflict that they're actually fighting against, is a really, really clear example of the imbalance and leak of the collective heart space. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a huge theme that we're moving into with the eclipse season that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. We have this theme of balance coming through, both with the spring equinox, which is in like 2 days, along with the eclipse season. We have Libra, full moon eclipse a week from tomorrow. And then on April 8th, we have a new moon eclipse in Aries. And the theme of this whole eclipse season is really about balance being our birthright. But we're not balanced right now.
Wow. But even just hearing you saying balance is our birthright.
Well, it is. I mean, and the thing about
I love it. I'm like a beautiful mess right now.
We all are.
Yeah.
And I like also what you were sharing about like feeling all this change coming and transformation. And I just want you to know you're so aligned with the energies at play right now, right? Like spring equinox is a shift from winter into spring. So we have a big energy shift from the watery, dormant elements of winter into growth again, into the earth energy of spring. So already there, we have a big transformation. Eclipse seasons are all about change, destined, predetermined, fated change that we cannot control.
Right.
And the best thing we can do during eclipse season, I can curse here, right?
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like I just, people are like,
it happened to get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah. Like, it's not about resisting. It's not about manipulating. It's literally what is happening and what is my best option from here.
Right. Right.
That's it.
Right. And I think that like, because I am such a naturally anxious person, I'm always like needing to hold on to things or like feeling like I have some sort of control. And I think that like this last week has been so cool because I've somehow found peace in not having control and just kind of letting whatever is happening, all the changes and all the emotion, like just letting it happen with I'm starting to get to the point where I like no self-judgment. When I was like crying and I was like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what's wrong. And then I try to figure it out and I try to explain it to husband because he's on the other side. Like, he's just watching it happen. He's like, whoa, what? Yeah, I needed to buckle up my bootstraps and I had no idea.
Our poor husbands, they benefit from it.
They do.
They benefit.
They do. Because along with like all of this like emotion comes a lot of like moments of clarity and just acknowledge. Like I had like the funnest day. The most like with my husband yesterday. We went out to lunch and we were just talking about everything and just talking about what I'm kind of experiencing and talking about like what I would like in the future and how just appreciative I am of him right now.
Yeah.
And to see him receive that and to see him like like, it was just such a cool lunch that we had yesterday. It was like we went on our date. It was supposed to be a family date. The kids were being donkeys. We said, nope. Dropped them off at home, went out and just really enjoyed each other. And like, it was so cool. I just felt so understood and I just felt so supported. And I just, I didn't feel any judgment from him.
Love it.
Because he's not I think he's figuring out how to push judgment. He's very much at like everything needs to make sense. Like there's a why to things. There's a, but when he sees me going through these things and I'm like completely okay and comfortable with not having a why, with just kind of going with it and seeing him like receive that and like be okay with me being okay. Like it's just all so cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
What you're describing actually really sounds to me like nervous system capacity, right? Like what we do when we actually are working to regulate the nervous system is we're increasing our capacity to feel. And when we increase our capacity to feel, we're increasing our capacity to feel in both directions, increasing our capacity to feel connection, joy, love, presence, but also increasing our capacity to feel sorrow, pain, overwhelm, anxiety. I also want to say to you, because I also have lots of experience with anxiety. Anxiety is a flip side to intuition. Most people who deal with a lot of anxiety are highly intuitive people who have not yet learned how to work with intuitive energy.
That makes a lot of sense.
Intuitive energy or psychic energy and anxious energy are both at a similar frequency. They're both very fast-paced. Fast.
Yeah.
The difference is in the flavor of that energy. When it's an expansive, opening flavor to it, we go into intuition. When it's constrictive, we go into anxiety.
Okay.
Do you feel that maybe that like anxiety could be like, because maybe sometimes like certain anxieties present themselves as maybe your intuition coming forward and you trying to stuff it down and resist your own intuition because of
yes and.
Yeah.
Yes and. Okay,
yes,
so
and. I love
some
that. Yes,
couple
and.
things to note. The role of the third eye chakra. So I'm an energy worker, so I work a lot with the energies of the chakras and to understand how intuition flows through all of these chakras and how they want to communicate. So the third eye is the chakra we talk most about for intuition, right? And where's the third eye located? Right smack in the middle of our brain, okay? So when we are putting all of this energy and attention into the third eye chakra and all this like mental energy without really knowing how to flow with that intuitive energy, it stays up in the third eye and it becomes overanalyzing, overprocessing, anxious energy. It can often lead to insomnia, lots of anxiety. This is all the symptoms I had before I started working with my intuition.
Right.
When we are able to bring that energy down, flow that energy down, and connect it with some of the other chakras, then we actually start being able to understand the intuitive information we're getting. And we no longer allow it to feel like this very fast-paced, anxious energy. Now, what you just asked, Jenna, with like, does our intuition sometimes communicate with us in ways that we perceive as anxiety? I mean, in some ways, yes, because it's this really fast-paced energy that's coming in and we don't know how to work with it, so it feels like anxiety. But once we do start consciously connecting with our intuition never communicates to us through fear. Not ever. The intuition never communicates to us through judgment. Not ever.
Which is really what anxiety communicates with us.
Yes.
It's always fear.
Yes.
It's always fear. It's always judgment.
If you're in fear, it's not your intuition. It might be fear generated by intuitive energy that you don't yet know how to work with.
Okay.
So basically, when we're having a lot of anxiety, what the emotion is actually asking us for is to connect with our intuition. Just like when we're having a lot of sorrow, sadness, the energy is actually asking for us to connect, make a connection, right? So if we can start understanding that even these undesired emotions are just information, then we can actually embrace them, process through it, and figure out, like, what is this actually here for? Mm-hmm. Another thing to take note of as we start working with energies is that mentally projected emotions and authentic emotions are not the same thing, which is why I was talking about, like, when I feel anxiety in someone's heart space and I go down to their sacral, but their sacral feels, when I'm down there, I'm like, ooh, I actually feel a lot of excitement. And there's even this sense of like, I got this, right? Mm-hmm. The sacral chakra is the chakra that houses all of our authentic emotions, our soul-led emotions. But we are so conditioned to be mentally generated beings that the nervous system sends all this information up to the brain. The brain uses all these different patterns and is like, oh, I feel my heart racing. I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
The brain makes these projections of what am I actually feeling? And then we start kind of ruminating on that thing. We keep repeating it. We're repeating it. That's what I'm feeling. And we don't actually go into the body to be like, but is that really what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Or am I telling myself I'm feeling that?
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things I try and help people do is start to feel into, when are you in your head versus when are you in your body? What are some ways we can bring the energy from the head down into the body? Also, when we feel a certain emotion come to the surface, how do we actually get underneath it to ask what's under it? What's the root of this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So these are a lot of things I help my clients do, mainly through somatic practices. Mm-hmm. And somatic practices are body-led, body-driven practices. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
No.
I love that. We, oh my God, this is like so funny because I eventually want to do an episode on somatics.
I have the perfect person for you. I have
Literally.
the perfect person for you. She's my teacher, my mentor. Yeah. I'm being certified through her right now as a Soma certified practitioner, as well as being nervous system informed.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, I mean, because we're supposed to be talking about TikTok psychics.
We also should probably introduce.
Oh, yes.
We're talking about intuition red flags.
Yes. We've just like started a whole ass episode. We're not even.
Well, I think it's just such a natural thing to do, though, too. Like, you just, like, you know.
Well, it's hard because we already know each other. So it's like.
So this is Rachael Cohen. She is an intuitive. Wait, you introduce yourself.
You introduce yourself
because I don't want to mess it up.
I'll probably mess it up too, but whatever. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachael Cohen. I am a spiritual life coach. I'm an intuitive medium. I'm an energy worker, a nature connector, and an author. It's a lot of things. Basically, what I do is I help people reconnect with themselves, with their authenticity, with their souls, with their magic through very intentional and energetic relationship with the natural world. Yeah, that's what I do.
That is like the perfect elevator pitch for you.
Oh my God, thank you. It's taken me 6 years.
I know it's probably taken a long time to film.
Yeah, we would have not. I think that would have been the best one I've ever done. So I might have to like.
Oh, this is Rachael. Yeah, I've been like, this is my friend Rachael.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's a green witch and talks to trees and I don't know, does some weird stuff.
It's perfect now.
Yeah.
So. No, it was interesting because we had been talking about, so Rachael, I was picking your brain a little bit about psychics because there was like so many little, especially around the time we did the Rose Marks episode or I was researching it. And so then we started talking about TikTok psychics.
So
then there's a lot of people who are also a little bit shady in like the somatic online space. So that was another one that I was like, oh, we're going to have to get to that eventually. So that would be a good one.
I have the best person for you for nervous system and somatics. She's incredible. I love her so much.
I love somatics.
Oh,
I love to do it personally.
Yeah.
I'm like a firm believer in it, but I do believe that there's people capitalizing on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. You see the commercials that are like, somatic practices to lose 45 pounds.
I'm
like,
God.
No, that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Stuff that gets me like my eye twitching. And then I was like,
oh my God. You and Veronica will go off on that.
Where's my whiteboard marker?
Yeah.
Underline. Because I was so irritated.
Yes. Yes. That's not what somatics is about.
No.
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
So let's start a little bit with I don't even have a brilliant outline for this episode or anything. I did like a little bit of light research, but so what's happening right now in this, like in the TikTok space, is that there's a lot of people who are claiming to be psychics that are coming on and they're DMing people.
Ugh.
And they're like, I was called to DM you about this reading and I have this reading for you. Send me a picture of your palm and like $5 on PayPal or whatever.
Oh my God.
And then they start saying crazy shit, including crazy shit like in the Rose Marks episode where they're like, you have a curse.
Oh, God, no.
Mm-hmm.
You have a curse and only I can help you. And it's funny because at first I thought, okay, so like what if someone were to DM me and be like, I was called to give, I'd be like, no, here's a picture of my palm.
Would you really?
I think I would give them a picture of my palm. I wouldn't pay
them.
I wouldn't pay them, but I'd be like, here's a picture of my palm. What do you see? Just because I'd be curious.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I started looking into it, a lot of actual psychics on TikTok are like, these people are scammers.
They're the worst. They're the worst.
They will not seek you out.
Yeah, don't feed them.
Yeah, they
Don't
won't
feed 'em.
seek you out. There's a lot of things. So
Curses
Raquel,
don't exist.
I know. Raquel, I need to know, what are your red flags?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Because there are people out there that are authentic.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are others that are not.
Yeah. The main red flags that I have are people who are going to tell you that they are better qualified to do this, that not everyone can do this. They're the only one who can make this connection. Anytime anyone tells you, I'm the only one, red fucking flag. There's 8 billion people in the world, okay? You can be that egotistical.
And think that you are the only one.
Right?
I mean, it does take balls. I mean, a lot of these
Well,
people
but the
take a
truth
lot
is
of
that
balls.
we
Like,
are,
crazy.
each and every one of us is a unique, snowflake. Yes, 100%.
Mhm.
That being said, the capacities, the gifts we all hold, those are not unique.
Mhm.
Every single human has the capacity to feel every human emotion. Some of us are going to feel some more than others, but we have the capacity for all of it, right? My personal belief is that every single human has the capacity to become an intuitive being. Every single human has the gifts of clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, and maybe even more. We're just taught to repress it when we're young, and we're not taught to cultivate it as we grow. So anytime someone's going to say to you, only some people can do this, you need to be born a psychic, you can't learn, that's always a red flag. Anytime people talk about curses, demons, anything that can come over and take over your energy without your consent, red flag. Anytime people talk about what's happening in the spiritual planes with words about war and light versus dark, good versus evil, red flag. Those are my main ones.
Yeah. Can you, stepping back a little bit, review for people who don't know what clairaudience, clairvoyance is, because there's so many different kinds.
Yes.
And I only know about it from, oh my God, what's that show that I love? Living for the Dead. Have you seen Living for the Dead?
I think you overthink. Okay.
Who is it? Who's the medium they use in that one?
I don't remember his name, but it's this queer-based ghost hunting show.
Oh, the ghost hunting. Yeah. Those are sometimes red flags for me.
Red flag. But what gets me, this guy who's the medium, is that he's so exhausted afterwards.
Okay.
And I feel I think we talked about
Yes, we've talked about this. Yeah. That's all this is a sign to me.
You felt like that was a sign of someone who's maybe not as practiced in their journey, right?
It's that they don't understand energy.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they're not practiced as an intuitive. They don't understand the energy of it. So when someone is exhausted after doing a read, it's because they're using their own life force energy. Mm-hmm. As an energy worker, as a Reiki master, I am taught I never use my own energy. So even when I'm doing intuitive reads, I am flowing that energy through me. It's not my own life force energy I'm using. So typically reads and sessions energize me. Now, of course, if I have like 3 in a day, I'm still going to be tired because it's just a lot of focus, right?
Yeah,
like it's
and
just a lot of focus.
Yeah.
But I don't feel physically exhausted.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm feeling physically exhausted after a session, I'm not grounding enough. I'm not being a receiver of enough energy.
Yeah.
So that's not a red flag. That's just like, I think that person could use a course on energy, understanding the chakra system, understanding grounding, because not every intuitive medium is also an energy worker.
Yeah.
Right? Like here, I'm forgetting his name right now, but
Tyler Henry.
yes.
First thing that came to my mind was
Yes.
Tyler Henry. He's the Hollywood medium, and he's like he looks like Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, I
He's
know
so
who
cute.
he is.
He's so sweet.
He's
very good.
Talking about this.
Yeah. Yep.
And seeing how just
Wait, is that the person that we were going to go see? Oh, wait, no. It was
No.
Last minute, we were going to go see a random medium, and then we were like, it's tomorrow. And then some lady over.
Oh my God.
And she was like, actually, it's tonight. You missed it.
You're thinking Long Island medium.
Yes.
Because she was just at like Pachanga. Teresa Caputo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have no
I love
idea who
her.
she is
She's
or
a
if she's
riot.
legit, but I was like really in it
So-
to watch people because that's where I go. I want to watch people's reactions.
It's hard in those shows to say. I mean, as a medium now, I can watch these medium shows and be like, this is legit, because there's certain things I identify in reads, in the way that information comes through, in the way that they make meaning, that as someone who does it now, I'm like, oh, it's legit. I can feel it. I understand how that comes through. What's not legit about shows like that is that, especially the Long Island medium, she's not like cold reading people at the supermarket, right?
Yeah,
like they have to sign paperwork and make sure it's okay to be filmed and like all that kind of stuff. So
it's a whole thing that
that
really
right. But the reads themselves and the information she's presenting, that is legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about Tyler Henry because I literally just watched him like 2 nights ago. And
wait, how? What?
he's
on
Netflix.
He's on Netflix?
Mm-hmm. You would like it.
What?
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And he's just the sweetest. And I worry about him.
Yeah.
I worry about him a lot because I'm like, oh no, he's my child. Well, because I care. He like after every reading, he's just like, oh, I'm exhausted. Like I'm gonna feel that one for days because it was just so heavy.
Right.
Because he's using a lot of his own.
He's using his own energy.
In fact,
as soon as I watch
he's
the
had,
show,
he's had like some health complications. He'd had that collapsed lung. And he's a seemingly healthy young guy. Like you could tell, like I worry about him and his work because I feel like it's gonna really take it all out of him. And
yeah, I mean, I watched the show on Netflix, and he's a really talented psychic and medium, no doubt, very legit. But that was the one thing I really picked up on, because he talks in the show about his health issues and how he's exhausted. And as someone who does this work, I was like very clearly like, he is not using the energy that's being sourced to him. He's using his own energy. Now, I don't know his health history. There might be more there, of course. Yeah. But just from what I saw in the show, that to me was like, wow, it's not a red flag. He's good at what he does.
Right,
but just for his own energy maintenance, it would really behoove him to learn how to receive the energy and move it through him, so he's not using his own.
So he's not using his own, because and obviously, like he's talking to people about their losses.
Yeah, it's all
he
heavy
takes
stuff.
it on. Yeah. And like he even like when he's doing readings, he'll like feel certain things in his own body.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah. And it just
the first time I read for someone
so heavy.
The first time I read for someone whose dead person came through and was sharing with me they died with a heart attack. Like I literally was like, ouch. Like I was like, okay, that hurts.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I first started reading I'm highly clairsentient, and I'll talk more about what the clairs are.
Because I need to know.
Yeah. So clairsentience is clear sensing, clear feeling. That's probably one of my strongest clairs. And especially when I'm doing mediumship, one of the ways they love to communicate to us is through emotion, is through sensation. And it's really lovely because mostly people, when they're dead, they have such intense feelings of love and pride. And so I get like flooded with it, and I'm like, But when sometimes if I'm asking for them to share, like, how did you pass? Like and this is, something I've had to learn as the facilitator, if my vibration, if my energy is a little bit lower, I will feel it like too much, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I felt someone who died of a heart attack, when they were sharing that with me, I literally was like, ow, 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 ow. right? Like it
Right.
felt like someone was squeezing my
Yeah.
And then as soon as I kind of said,
Yeah.
was this a heart-related thing? It passed. So I had asked my mentor afterwards. I'm like, yeah, so I did a read and like that kind of hurt.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
didn't
wanna-
like that.
I didn't like that part.
No,
Yeah, like
thanks.
how do I make sure that I don't feel the
Do
physical
that
pain?
again.
Like I can feel the sensation but not have the
Yeah.
physical
I would
pain
like
of
to
it.
like not have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like on a random
Right.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so what she told me was that you have to make sure you raise your vibration. Now, I know sometimes when we hear that, like raise your vibe, it can be a little bit like love and light yourself. And I'm not a like love and light yourself out of reality person. I'm a like, let's integrate all the things. So when I started learning about nervous system regulation and polyvagal theory, I recognized that raising your vibe is really just about finding ventral vagal state within your own body. It's finding that place of safety, security, presence within your own body. That's what it means to raise your vibe. So basically, you have to fill yourself with you first. Anyway, let's go back into the Claire ability.
Yes, Claire abilities.
So before I even go into that, I just want to give everyone a little bit of a background because as you've heard me talking, like I am a science geek. All right, like I love science. And I'm also super duper spiritual, totally woo. So just so you all know, like I think that's where the jam.
Yeah.
I think actually that's where the jam is like when those are connect. That's where my jam is when we pair those two things because it's like, let's ground ourselves into reality, but also remember there's magic in this world, right? Like yes and.
Yeah.
I'm a big yes and
I love
person.
this yes and.
Yes, and
So my background
did you take improv?
No, but I learned about that from Tina Fey's
improv girl.
Tina Fey's Bossy Hands.
I have that displayed in my bedroom.
But I did
Bossy pants.
when I was working at Monterey Bay Aquarium, I did go to this conference called the Creative Problem Solving Institute, and they utilize a lot of the principles of improv to help people go into more convergent and divergent thinking. So we had like a whole lot of like improv type
Yeah.
activities.
Yeah.
And that's where I got really into yes and.
Yeah.
So I guess a little bit. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, my background's actually in environmental education. I studied sociology and ecology. I spent over 10 years working at places like San Diego Zoo, Monterey Bay Aquarium. I always knew that my role is to help people connect with nature and to find more just appreciation and like wellness in life through nature itself. So while I was working at places like zoos and aquariums, I was doing that real well. I really loved it. But I personally was also suffering from a lot of eco-anxiety or a lot of like, existential fear about the state of the world.
Absolutely.
And even working at institutions that their whole purpose was to like make things better, I still was like, why aren't we doing anything?
Like we know what to do.
Right.
We seem to have, a good
Yeah.
hold on it. Nothing's happening.
Yeah. And so I had a lot of anxiety and we moved down here when I was pregnant with our first daughter. Things were good after she was born. Then after my second daughter was born, the anxiety came back like really strong when she was like 10 months old. And it was like real bad. Like I stopped being able to sleep. I couldn't eat, total ruminating thoughts. And it was, especially when the sleep part gets in, it goes from anxiety into depression real quick when
Yeah.
you're not getting any sleep.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't even know why I'm here. Like, I don't know. Like, this isn't worth it,
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't it. So I went back to therapy, got on some anti-anxiety medication. Thankfully, the therapist I found was a pranic healer, energy worker on the side.
That is
And so she was
awesome.
like, I really can feel in you how blocked you are creatively and how blocked you are in your third eye. So she recommended this great book called The Artist's Way, which if you guys haven't heard it, it's a fantastic book. It's by Julia Cameron. And it's really a book about like breaking through writer's block or any kind of creative block, but it's really a spiritual awakening book. So started reading that book, started doing morning pages where basically you get up and before you do anything else, you just like free flow write for 3 pages to just kind of get it out of your head. And after about a month of doing that, I felt really compelled to start making little pieces of art with like clipped succulents and stones and stuff I found around the yard. And so during the kids' afternoon nap, I would just make some art pieces. And when I started making these art pieces, it was the only thing I could do where my brain just like literally went quiet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would just go outside, I'd start making this art and my whole brain was just like, meh. When before it was like, do this, do that, climate change, Ebola. Like at the time it was Ebola. It was before COVID. I was scared of Ebola, guys. Anxiety.
We need to laugh about Ebola. How are we?
Oh, time.
Sign of the time.
So that's actually how my business Infinite Succulents started, is I just started making these art pieces as a form of medicine for myself.
Yes.
And I enjoyed it so much that I just started gifting it to people, and then they'd ask me to gift it to others. And then I'm a teacher, by training. I like to guide other people. So I started doing workshops around San Diego for making succulent art. And I'd always bring in this idea of like the presence and the mindfulness when we're in creativity. And then, of course, working with nature. So even though it was like, we're just making plant art, it was also like, what happens in our body and in our minds as we're interacting with nature in this way? And I got really curious and I started studying like, what kind of impacts do plants have on our physical, emotional, mental health? Then I found some crystals to plant in. And as soon as I started working with the crystals, I started like feeling a lot of energy in my hands when I was working with the plants. I would start noticing when I was planting, I could tell when a plant needed to be watered, and I would hold it in a little bucket of water, and I could feel when it would start drinking the water, and I could feel when it had enough. And I could feel this happening. I had no idea like how I knew. I just knew. And I just kind of trusted what I was feeling. So I got certified as a crystal energy worker. Then I got certified in pranic healing. And as I started doing sessions on people, I would like hear things, or I would just say something and I didn't know why I was saying it, but I would say it, or I would see things sometimes. And, I also always had moments when I was younger where I would have intuitive hits, where I would feel someone's feeling, where I would hear someone's thoughts in my mind. Like I always knew I had a little bit of like the gift, right? But I never knew how to like cultivate it. I never knew how to use it like a tool, right? It always felt like something that either came over me, but it was never something that I could be like, I'm going to use that now, consciously. Yeah. So when I started like doing this work and things were coming up, I was like, okay, I want more of this. So in 2020, I found this teacher who I love named Marie Manicherry. She was offering a lot of online classes on intuition. I started taking her online classes, and I discovered very quickly that I was a medium, and I had no idea. Like, no, I didn't even want to. It wasn't something I was like, I want to talk to dead people. Yeah. Like, not even. I was like, I want to talk to plants. But
you were like, I'll be okay to talking to this tree.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I love about what you're sharing with us is that you're kind of stumbling on things.
Yeah.
It's a very natural
it's organic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not like, I want to figure this out. How do I do that?
How do I fit myself into this box?
No, everything that's happened and like the path that you've gone on and how you've like taken on all of this knowledge and, really has been really natural and organic. And it's cool to hear that as you're learning new things, you're like, you're continuously, it's also, I feel like just a part of you, like you're naturally curious. I want to know more.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get more, that is so cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. And actually, I do feel like I've always been someone who really follows my heart when it comes to my interests.
Right.
Like, so follow, like you said, like, what is the thing that's really making me feel so curious? Like, what's the thing that I just want to learn everything about, right? Like, that's often how our heart leads us. Okay. And I've always been that person. Like, I grew up in a really religious environment, never been religious. And I really did kind of sacrifice this greater sense of belonging in order to be authentic. Right. Like,
right.
And I gotta,
because I can almost imagine how being so religious doesn't leave room for you to also be natural and like a different kind of spiritual.
Right. Yeah. For me, it didn't.
Right.
For some people, it does. Some people, they have that no problem. For me, I was like, no, like like reading this letter of the law, the Torah, and all that. Like, it did nothing for. I'm like, this is violent. I don't feel anything spiritual from this. I'm like, I don't get this at all. So I've kind of always followed my heart when it comes to my interests and my passions. And I mean, I can say it hasn't led me astray, but there's been moments where I'm like, I don't know, kind of has it. I don't know. But I'm always just following it.
Right. But the thing is like you've enjoyed and you've learned and you went from working in in zoos and it's, and then now it seems like a natural progression, but I feel like it's only natural because you've listened.
Yeah.
And you've really like, like this is what I'm enjoying doing. Like this is like,
Well, and it's kind of funny when I think back at it now because I really wanted to work with like animals and plants who, when we work with those other beings, we are working in intuitive realms because we are communicating telepathically with these beings, whether we know it or not.
Right.
Right. So when I was working with the animals, we were doing.
You're certainly not vocalizing anything. We don't speak the same
well, I mean, I was doing.
sorry.
Yeah, I was in the training department, so we were doing like true training with the animals where it really was a conversation. We were using, like operant conditioning and using whistles and clickers to like get them to do different behaviors. So there definitely was like
okay, sorry,
both verbal and but so much of the communication we do with animals is telepathic. Anyone who's had a pet can speak to that. Like when they come over and look at you with those eyes and you know the difference between I have to go outside and I need something to eat. Right? Like that's
or I need a cuddle or I need a,
Yeah. So for me, I came into this world of intuition very organically because I knew it was something I always had. But again, I wasn't someone who woke up in the middle of the night with dead people on my bed, right? Like I was never, so I didn't have that kind of fear associated with it. And even now as a medium, I don't see dead people walking around like live people. I'll be with someone talking to them and all of a sudden I'll know, hey, your dead grandmother's over your right shoulder.
That is incredible.
And this kind of speaks to our clair abilities. So the clair abilities, clair is Latin for clear. So there's 4 main clair abilities, but there are more beyond that. The 4 main ones are clairvoyance. That's the one most people hear of. Clairvoyance means clear sight. Clear sight can mean lots of different things. For some people who are clairvoyant, they literally can see dead people moving around just as they would live people, but maybe they're a little bit more see-through.
Like the Sixth Sense kid.
Yeah, exactly. For some people who are clairvoyant, they can really see people's auras, like see colors around them or see sparkles or things around them. Yeah, I've seen sparkles around people.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh
my
God.
But for me, most of my clairvoyance is in my inner eye. So as I'm there sitting, like I'll be taken to places, I'll see things, especially when I'm interacting with dead people, they'll often show me their hair first. And for men, they like to show me if they had facial hair, especially if they were very proud of their facial hair. They'll tend to show me that.
Like, look at this, check out my
Men are like so into their stashes.
The length on this goatee.
I am telling you, men who have mustaches are so into their mustaches.
Yeah.
And I think it's like literally just mustaches. Because whenever it's like a beard and mustache, it's nothing. But if it's just a mask, they show me their mustaches with so much pride. I'm like, okay then.
Okay, I mean, it is like an identity.
So
I mean, a mustached man, the mustache is part of your identity.
I commend your stash, sir. I commend your stash.
So for clairvoyance, I think sometimes we have these expectations of what it's going to be that actually dilutes what we're already receiving. So for example, if you're sitting in meditation and a color comes in, that's clairvoyance, right? If you're sitting in a guided meditation and you actually see yourself go somewhere and you're walking down a beach and you can see trees, that's clairvoyance, right? Like you're in another place then. Then we have clairaudience, which is clear hearing. This, for me, comes in my own voice. So I don't hear like some random dude's voice in my head. Because that would be creepy. That would be like schizophrenia, right? Like, also with clairaudience, it can come in as in sound. Like I often hear tinkles, like tinkly laughter or tinkly bells. I'll hear often.
I literally thought that you meant like
tinkly pee.
I was like, that's awful, Raquel.
I will hear running water though sometimes.
Oh my goodness. So it might be. I'm choosing to believe this is a beautiful stream.
No, tinkles like that kind of like bells kind of sounds. I hear laughter a lot with clairaudience. And another really cool sign of clairaudience for people is when a song just pops into your head, but it's the right song for that moment.
For the moment.
That's your guide sending you a clairaudient message.
That is cool.
And this is ways like this is already happening for people, right? Like I really want to normalize the fact that you are already experiencing your clair abilities. So then we have clairsentience. And clairsentience is clear feeling, clear sensing. Now, often when we talk about empaths, and it's like I feel other people's feelings, we're really talking about clairsentience, but clairsentience takes it to the next level. Whereas like if I'm doing a read and I'm just doing a general read, typically what I'll get first is I'll typically get like a color first, and then I will be taken to a sensation in my body. So I'll either be taken to a specific chakra, or I'll be like, ooh, like something's lighting up right here. And that's the way for my intuition to guide me into information. So clairsentience is feeling things in your body. Tingles. You know, sometimes like when someone says something true and like your hair stands on edge or you get like chills up and down your body.
Often.
That's clairsentience. That's your body saying that resonates as true for me. Even like sometimes when you're sitting next to someone and all of a sudden you're fine and then all of a sudden your knee starts hurting. Turns out the person next to you, their knee is hurting.
But they haven't.
Clairsentience.
Crazy.
As someone who is an energy worker, I really utilize this sensation when I'm doing energy sessions on people, even when I'm guiding them through meditations for different chakras, because I can feel what's happening in their body as I'm guiding them through it. So as I'm guiding people how to ground and how to actually maintain that earth energy in their body, I can feel when they start keeping it in their body versus when they send it all out. I utilize that as a way to be in connection with my clients. When we're not aware of it, it can really come out as you're feeling a lot of aches and pains in your body, not realizing you're picking up for other people, right? Or you're feeling a lot of anxiety and you're like, why am I feeling so anxious? I don't know where this came from. And it could be like, even for example, driving over a bridge. Like you're from the Bay Area, right? So many people, when they're driving over the bridge, get really anxious.
I can't.
And you can actually just be driving over the bridge, be fine, and just move through that energy because the energy can remain and you can feel it and pick up on it. And all of a sudden, you're anxious. Now, some of us might actually be the ones leaving the anxiety on the bridge. And that's fine. Sorry about that. But I think it's really important for us to remember we are energetic beings, which means we are constantly both releasing and receiving energies. And I know we talk a lot about energy vampires, and energy vampires is a very different energy than just the fact that most of us just go around both leaking and receiving energy on the daily. And it's only when we become conscious of it and aware of it that we can really empower ourselves to be very intentional with how we bring energy into our body, when we release, how we're releasing all of that. And that's why in my intuitive magic program, I teach about the chakras. I teach about the energy system because it just gives us so much empowerment in our experience.
What's to pull from.
So that's clairsentience.
Okay.
And then their last one of the main four is claircognizance, which is just clear knowing. This is what, when people say I got a download, this is what they're talking about. When people all of a sudden are just like, I just know something, it's claircognizance. So the way it works for me when I'm doing a read for someone, I'm getting all these cues, like I'm seeing a dandelion come through a crack, and I'm seeing blue color go by, and I'm just sharing all these things that I'm seeing, and like we're all like, okay, great, what does that mean, right? Like this happens all the time with intuitive reads, where you're like, okay, all this weird random information, what the hell does all this mean?
Right.
Typically what happens is I'll be like, okay, thank you, I'm seeing all this stuff you're sharing with me, what does this mean? And all of a sudden I'll be like, and I'll just know, oh, this goes back to what we talked about earlier about that. And I'll have this full circle moment.
Gotcha.
You can't reach for it. When you try to reach for it, it feels further away. You just need to sit there and acknowledge what's already come through. And then all of a sudden, bam, it'll just come in. That's a claircognizance. There's also clairolfactance, which is clear smell. This often happens when people are developing gifts as a medium. Where all of a sudden you'll get the smell of cigarettes and nobody around is smoking cigarettes, but your father used to smoke cigarettes, right? And you're smelling that,
and you're like,
right?
Oh, okay.
So you get smells of something. Some people also will get taste, clairgustance it's called. So you'll actually...
Clairgust?
or something like that.
Like, ooh,
Where you
I just
actually
like that name.
taste something, like
Yeah.
you get a taste of chocolate in your mouth or fried chicken or
Mhm.
something, right? That's a way for spirit to send information as well. And then there's also psychometry, and Tyler Henry does this a lot, which is clear touch. So
So that's
you
him scribbling.
no, it's more when he asks for an object, right? And he's reading the item. Yeah.
Got you.
So that's another one. I am not as good with psychometry, but I also haven't practiced it as much. But these days when I'm doing my reads, I am getting like all of the 4 clairs often all at once. You know, going back to like TikTok though, yeah, there's so many red flags on there. Especially, I don't like people who and again, this is also just the nature of social media and algorithms themselves. You know, fear mongering, and anything that's going to be like super dramatic is going to get more views.
Yeah.
So you get people on there who are like, I see the big earthquake coming for California. I see a massive tidal wave coming up, taking over all of London, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I am not big on predictions. Just from what I understand, because people ask me questions like, oh, what's going to, and I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you right. First of all, I think some intuitives are better at seeing into the future than others. I'm much better at feeling into the present and what's happening right here, right now. But I can feel into possibilities for the future. But that's just it. It's possibilities, because the future's always kind of in flux.
Yeah.
Because it's based on our free will.
It's ever changing.
We always have free will. And so even though we might have had this divine plan before we came in to do all these things, we might come here and be like, I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't remember anything that I said I was going to do. And now that I'm here, fuck it, I just want to go have fun, right? Yeah. And our spirit guides aren't going to be like, hey, snap out of it. You said you're going to do
future is supposed to look
right.
That.
Nope. The spirit guides are like, oh, you're going right when you were supposed to go left. Okay, we're going right now. Now what are we going to do, right? They're always loving us. They're always providing guidance. They're never shaming, blaming, or trying to force us to do anything, right? So the thing about the future is, because free will is one of the greatest laws for us as humans, the future is ever changing. And that's when you have people talk about different timelines and yada, yada. But ultimately, when people are asking me future questions, what I feel into is, what is the thing they're desiring in the future? Can I find that energy? And then when I feel into that energy, what's the proximity of it? Does it feel close to me? Does it feel far away? Is there a number that's coming through that gives us any sense of time period on this? And that's about as good as I'm going to get. And I tell people that, you know, like, I'm straight up. I also think it's really important as an intuitive that you remember that your role is just to share what you're receiving. As a former people pleaser, sometimes that's hard for me when I'm going to share something that perhaps they not want to hear, you know?
Right.
And I have to remember, in that space, I'm not here to tell them what they want to hear.
Right.
I'm here to tell them what I'm receiving for them.
You're not picking and choosing based on what you think they want out of this session.
Right. And I have to check myself sometimes, because when I'm feeling into things as an intuitive, I have to make sure that what I'm feeling isn't their desire, but what actually is at play.
Right.
Because sometimes I can feel into something and I can really feel into their want for it to happen. I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's definitely going to happen because I can feel you wanting it, versus feeling into the energy itself, right? So the more you work on this, the more you feel into the subtleties of the energy and figure out how to ask the right questions to get the right. And I don't like using the word right, because again, that's a very human, but how to ask the questions that are going to give you the answers that are going to be of most benefit.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That is crazy. That is cool.
There is definitely some green flags of things to look for on TikTok as well. Because there's a lot of really, really great, you know, spiritualists, mediums, intuitives on that app who are there to help educate.
Yeah.
So anytime you have anyone on there who is not gatekeeping, right? Who's basically saying, what I'm doing, you all can do too. This is available to all of us. That to me is always, always, always a green flag, because that's true. That's true as I see it.
And I think that they see it as not their own, right? Because it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really important.
You know?
Yeah. It's really important. I always tell, it's funny because I have clients who I see one time, and then I have clients who come back, you know, coaching with me. And I'll often have clients and they'll be like, oh, remember you said this? Well, guess what happened? And I'll be like, I don't remember saying that.
You're like,
because the truth is that I mean, some things I will remember. I have a really good memory as a Cancer. Like sometimes I'm like, I wish I didn't remember as much as I do.
Yeah.
But especially when I'm channeling messages or like things come through, it was never for me.
Yeah.
It was never for me.
Right.
It was always for you.
Right.
So I'm not meant to hold it or
Right.
remember it.
Yeah.
But I'm always happy to hear when it's confirmed for
Right.
you.
Right.
Like, that's great.
You're like,
Yeah.
love that for you.
But I don't remember
Yeah.
saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, when you're like in your flow state too, like you often don't, when you're fully present, oftentimes you don't really hold on to those things because you're just totally experiencing something in the moment.
Right.
So you don't
true.
hold on to the things.
Right.
That
It's
is
just like
so
when I
true.
teach,
You're flowing.
Yeah.
You're flowing.
You're not, you're being present, staying in the moment. And
Right.
then oftentimes people will be like, remember that class? And I'm like, no.
No.
I feel like I might have blacked out.
Yeah, you do say that.
I
do.
I
And
think
I
I
was
was.
like, remember when you said this? You made me chuckle and blah, blah, blah. You're like, wow. I don't know.
Just so you know, like when you are in a place where you are flowing through that, but you're guiding other people, you're channeling.
Yeah.
In that moment, you are channeling. You're allowing the flow of the energy of the yoga itself to move through you. You're just a conduit for it in that moment. That's channeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, I mean, how I feel. I guess
Yeah.
I wouldn't have phrased it so gracefully and beautifully, though. I
know.
would have just been like, I don't know, I black out. I'm just doing what I think I should. Like,
but
what
you're
feels
doing
right
it.
for the room in the moment.
But again, I'm here to normalize the fact that
Yeah,
we're all
I love
intuitive
that.
and that
Right.
it's not this like magical sit with the headscarf and the crystal ball.
Right,
And, I
right.
mean, yeah, I do have some crystals I like to use. Yeah, but like I also don't need them, you know? I like to bring them if I know I'm going to go into intuitive places because they're kind of like anchors for me in some ways. And when I'm at home and doing sessions, yes, I light a candle and I do this whole prayer. I ritualize it, of course.
Yeah.
But there'll be times, like for example, I was at my acupuncturist and her father had just passed and she would put needles in me and all of a sudden her dad was there, right? And I'm like, oh, your dad's here. Do you want me to like tell you what he's saying? And she's like, yes, please, right? And I didn't light a candle. I didn't have any crystals. I was literally lying face down with the needles in my back, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not a crutch,
Yeah.
but it is something that helps me focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, back to green flags. Anyone who is not gatekeeping, who's letting you know that this is available for you. People who also really speak about spirit in a really, really loving way. There's that whole like 3D versus 5D. That is a red flag to me.
Yeah, that's like
Do
the
I
mother
even
god
want to
people.
know?
It's a real red flag. And that is
Yeah.
all over TikTok app.
Yeah, that I feel is like
All
a
over.
little like QAnon.
Yeah.
Well, there's like a QAnon or wellness to QAnon theory.
yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Or-
Well, now
a lot of us, because we believe we're so. It's not like a big jump, right? For some of us that
it's the
believe in
anti-establishment.
something. Yeah, it's like
Anti-science, anti-establishment, anti-government.
and so a lot of
yeah.
that comes from like this kind of like QAnon-y kind of weird space, like that we aren't living like in a full world. Like it was, remember, did you watch the Mother God documentary? Did you watch it?
I didn't watch that one, but I did watch the QAnon documentary on HBO a few years ago.
I did not watch. I'm not ready for that one though. You might not even be ready for Mother God. But in it, they believe everything here is 3D, but they're like, we're not going to take her to a 3D hospital when we're living in like a 5D world.
No, you're not. You're human on Earth. You're living in this world.
She's like asking to be taken to a hospital.
Oh my
because she's like dying of like colloidal silver poisoning. And she's like, take me to a hospital. And they're like, God doesn't really want us to take her. She's testing us.
Oh my God.
And like, yeah.
So many red flags.
So many red flags.
Yeah. So that whole like 3D versus 5D, anything that is promoting a sense of separation or spiritual superiority, huge red flag. We are not having a split where all of a sudden some people are going to ascend into the fifth dimension. I mean, that's like literally the rapture. They're basically repackaging the rapture into a spiritual space.
Yeah.
And it's basically a way to disconnect from the oneness in which we all exist and to make ourselves feel like some of us are better than other people.
Yeah.
That ain't it.
That ain't a.
You're right. That ain't it.
So anytime you're on TikTok, if you're following anyone who is leading you down that path, please know that's not the path of intuition. And that's not really the path of spirituality either.
Yeah. I think I see a lot of that. The spiritual superiority.
Right.
Yeah.
That is
that got real loud for me in 2020.
Yes.
Real loud.
Yes. I feel like that was like kind of the conditions which kind of created where we are right now. Like, or that was like the seed that now has grown into this like very weird space of like, no, I mean, I think that especially, I mean, a lot of the things that we cover on the show, a lot of it has happened since 2020.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
you would think that like a lot of this would have been
like Guru Jagat, the Kundalini
Guru
yoga.
What yoga to the people, that was, I think was post. Yeah, that was during COVID.
Yeah.
Like, so there's like so many that have like happened more recently. The Guru Jagat.
Well, actually, that makes sense if you follow Neptune.
Really?
Because of some of Neptune's moves. So Neptune is definitely the planet of kind of like
delusion, right?
It's delusion, illusion, but also like some spirituality, right? But like the Neptunian energies can really lead more into cult-like thinking. And here's another thing, and I think this is really important. And we have to remember that, yes, we're an infinite soul, but we're also a physical human. What I believe is that every soul who's here is chosen to be here. This is a spiritual perspective. I know that there's some people out there who maybe don't think that and never asked to be born or whatnot. But from a spiritual perspective, every soul that is here chose to come, chose the life, chose the family to some extent, like chose this and actually had a plan in place, had some kind of divine plan, chose their spirit guide team up there. And then we're born. And in my culture, we actually have this midrash, this belief that when a baby is born, an angel touches it right here. You know, that little spot?
Cupid's bow.
The Cupid's bow. It gets touched right here and you forget. You forget everything. All your past lives, why you came. And the role in this world is to remember, right? We're here to like remember why we're here.
I wonder if that's why people touch that when they're thinking too.
That's a good point. I never thought on that.
Yeah.
I think I touch her.
I do.
I tend to touch more here. I go like this way.
I do here. I do the chin. Like I do the full.
I'm just kidding.
A serious.
Yeah.
I do a full serious.
No, I'm like,
but only because I'm so scared of touching my face and it breaking out.
Oh, okay.
It's my own anxiety.
Do you remember when COVID first came out and there was like that one video where this woman was like they're like, don't touch your face. And so this one woman, the whole video, she's like just like the whole time she's like trying not to touch her face and being like, oh my God, I don't realize how much I touch my face. I felt like that. Like the whole video, she's like
so much. I know.
like I always like I'm like this. I'm always touching my face. So anyway, yeah, like we're here as humans. We chose this. We're not here to try and ascend out of it. And I think sometimes a lot of spiritual people do try to kind of like astral project, leave their body, leave this dimension, which is kind of denying your plan you came here for. And as someone who helps people cultivate their intuition, nothing is going to dilute your intuition more than leaving your body behind. Because so much of what we get from our intuition is coming through our body. And typically it's the people who only go up into the third eye and out of their bodies where I find we get into a lot of spiritual superiority and spiritual psychosis.
Yeah, that's a lot of the people that we cover.
Yes, it's all spiritual psychosis.
That's literally
it's all spiritual psychosis.
Yeah, those people that are trying to ascend and they say that they've ascended and they...
Yeah. They're not grounded. They're not in their personal power, which is the solar plexus.
Yeah.
They're not in their authenticity, which is the sacral, and they're not even feeling their own authentic emotions. They might be in their heart space, but remember, the heart space is where we take in everybody's everything, and it becomes really easy for us to be manipulated from within there as well. And I think we see that happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
Also, how easily people are being manipulated by their emotions. And it's really interesting because I feel like we're in this place of emotional intelligence revolution, which is great. Like even talking about somatics, even talking about nervous system regulation, this is so important. It's important that we actually learn to understand our emotions, embrace them. But we still need to be able to tell the difference between subjective truth and objective truth. Because if we can't do that, we are ripe for emotional manipulation, which is brainwashing.
Right.
And that's what's happening.
Yes. And what I feel like a lot of this feeling of people wanting to leave their bodies and like come outside of their bodies is often like a trauma response.
Oh, definitely.
That they don't have the right tools and they don't know the place to start. And so that feels like a natural space to go.
And the truth is we all deal with trauma.
Yeah.
Some of us bigger trauma than others, but none of us are getting out of life without trauma.
Something. Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've said in my lifetime when something like big has happened, I'm like, I feel like I'm having like an out of body experience. Like, I can't believe this, like, to be,
Which
real
is a
or
super adaptive, smart response of our nervous system. Okay? Like, first and foremost, if you're having a moment where you're disassociating for your safety, please don't shame or blame yourself. This is your nervous system acting in your best behalf.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do from there is learn how do we increase the capacity of the nervous system. Okay? But shaming and blaming ourselves isn't going to help do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes disassociation is life-saving.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, so Raquel, you have a book coming out.
Oh,
You
yeah.
should promote that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you guys for so long. Okay.
Yes.
So I have a book coming out April 9th of 2024. This book is called Self-Care for Eco-Anxiety, 52 Weekly Practices for Positive Personal Change Through the Power of Nature, which, can I tell you, it took me like a month to memorize that.
It sounds incredible.
And this is a book that really helps us come back to a place of optimism, hope, and connection, even as we're dealing with the scary changes that are happening due to climate change and environmental destruction. This is not a book that is about solving climate change, even though a lot of the self-care practices I share are parts of the solution. And this is not a book about reducing your carbon footprint, even though if you do some of these self-care practices, you probably will. This is a book about you returning to a loving, connected relationship with Earth and with yourself, and recognizing when we take care of Earth, we also take care of ourselves. And when we take care of ourselves, we take care of Earth because we are interconnected. So that's what this book is all about. And I really hope that people read this and recognize the fact that we have so much available to us moving into the future. We have solutions. We have new inventions. We have what we need to meet this moment. Once we get corporations and governments on board, that is. Once they're on, we're go time. But I do believe that part of how we get them there is by each and every one of us returning to a reciprocal relationship with Earth. Change starts within. And what we need to have happen with our relationship with Earth is really shift our perception of this relationship and recognize that Earth is a sentient, generous being who loves us. And if we can remember that, then perhaps we can remember what it feels like to love her in return and love ourselves in return as well. And that's what this book is all about.
I love that.
That's incredible.
And the way I share the self-care practices in the book are pretty intentional as well. So the first 18 self-care practices are all just about like connecting with nature. And the first few are about nervous system regulation because right now, climate change and environmental destruction is really getting us all out of whack in our nervous system. So how do we move through freeze, flight, fawn, and fight? Did I say fight?
Mm-hmm.
No, you said flight.
Oh, you said flight.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah.
how do we move through those responses? And then how do we just remember that nature's all around and we are nature? So it's just connecting. And then the next 18 practices are all about creating with nature. So this is like making teas and planting gardens and styling with plants and making arrangements and like having fun, co-creating. And then the final 18 practices are all about reciprocity, are all about giving back to Earth. But we can give back to Earth in ways that also give back to ourselves. So for example, I share breath work, sitting and doing breath work with plants as a practice that also gives back to Earth because our exhales feed the plants, right? So even something as going outside and intentionally breathing is a way to say, thank you, Earth, I'm giving back to you in return.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, of course, we can do a lot more than that.
But this is a good one first.
Yeah, but that's somewhere to start, however.
Yeah, but even just remembering that our breath alone is an act of reciprocity helps us remember that we're in relationship with this living planet that we're lucky enough to call home. So that's what this book is all about. It's available for pre-order now. By the time this goes live, it might even be available.
Perhaps would it? Oh yeah, no, it should be available for pre-order still.
Okay, great.
But very soon will be released.
Yeah.
So go pre-order that. And if you don't pre-order, go to your local bookstore first and maybe see if you can find it. And then maybe if you can, which you probably should be able to.
Yeah.
And go to
I do know, like I know that it's on, I think the book, I can't think of the name right now. Because like my publishing house gives me a little link page, right, for pre-orders. And there's like always Amazon, of course.
Yeah.
And then there's Waterstone, which I think is a UK because my publishing house is in the UK. And then there's the other one like Book Depot, which I think is more of like the indie books.
Okay.
So if you go to my my Instagram, which is Our Infinite Nature Raquel, in my little bio, click there, and
That's how I
posted it.
you'll have it's all there. It's all in the.
Oh, I just like
bio
Googled like a noob. I pre-ordered it, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna post this." But then after I took the screenshot, I realized it was going to San Francisco. So then I was like, "Oh shit!" So then I had to like cancel it, and then by the time I forgot, I forgot what I was saying. I was like, I re-ordered it, and then I was like, "Well, I'm not posting this now." I'm running off that. Oh shit! I fucked up vibes.
No, I
Clearly I need it.
The second I saw you post that beautiful video when you read a piece from your book, honestly, I just was like, I need more. And that's how I just went and your link, and it was an easy situation.
Yay!
And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I just want to share with everyone the first sentence of this book so that you guys get a sense of what this book is trying to tell you. Here's your first sentence. Earth is not dying.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was
Because that's very true to me. In fact, what I see Earth doing in response to what we're doing is showing how vital she is, how alive she is, right?
Yeah,
so I think it's really important that we note that also because Earth is self-healing, just like our bodies are self-healing. If we stop doing the practices that are damaging her, she will heal. Just like ourselves, if we stop doing some of the practices that maybe are not helping us to heal, we will heal.
We will heal.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I love it.
Great.
Thank you, Raquel. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And you guys can find me on Instagram at Our Infinite Nature Raquel. And then my business name is Our Infinite Nature. And you can find that on my website, ourinfinitenature.co.
Yes. We'll post all of that in the show notes. Yay. Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here.
Oh my God, so fun.
This was so fun.
I could talk to you guys for like 6 hours.
I know.
Literally. I'm literally going to turn this off and we're going to turn it right back.
And I turn it right back on. We're not done.
We're not done.
So if you guys want more, stay tuned. It's coming.
It's coming. All right. Bye.
Bye.